Russia is a gas station masquerading as a country.
John McCain famously opined that Russia is a gas station parading as a country.
He's basically a gas station with a bunch of nuclear weapons.
What an asshole!
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
Wait for it.
The Hunter Biden story, the scandal, the this, the that, it's also the story of a father's love.
What did you say?
And Joe Biden has never and will never give up on his son Hunter, and will never treat him lesser than. And so he is a father first. Take it or leave it.
Shut that cunt's mouth or I'll come over there and start her head.
That is one big pile of shit.
The bear, it fucking did cocaine.
Apex predator. High on cocaine. Out of his mind. Oh man, you fucked.
What the fuck is wrong with that bear?
Shoot it, man!
Bear, speed up!
Higher, baby, and don't ever come down.
We have such good luck in nature.
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do
Available.
the homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret zone at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume. I'm kind of retarded.
Well, what a great distraction this Ocean Gate sub was, huh? Kept everybody captivated and spellbound, every day giving us updates on how many hours of oxygen the people had left. And then, of course, you had the conspiracy theory elements start popping up.
So you're telling me that Hamish Harding, the guy that's down in the submarine right now, right, got lost going to see the Titanic, the Ocean Gate submersible. This same guy was on the space rocket with Jeff Bezos. And now the Coast Guard doesn't want to help find him. The U.S. government has failed to give Magellan the necessary permits to participate. Magellan is like an expedition that went to go visit the Titanic before, right? They can go deeper than the Coast Guard. The U.S. government, the Coast Guard won't let them participate. They don't want to find this.
Also, you know how Antarctica, you can't go there, right? Well, he's flown over both poles. That includes the South Pole, where Antarctica is. He's flown over it. Another key point here is that he was a one-time crew member, a mission specialist. It sounds a lot like he was just invited to go along. In fact, he had decided to go on this mission after discussing it with his friend Chris Brown over a few beers. The same Chris Brown that decided to pull out of the Ocean Gate mission due to safety concerns at the last moment.
Some of them were total bullshit, like the Pakistani British billionaire being the owner of the company that misplaced the 30 tons of ammonium nitrate, or that maybe this was a way to keep people from exploring the wreckage in the future because they might find some evidence that the hull of the Titanic was blown outward from an explosion instead of inward from hitting an iceberg, which ties into some of the original conspiracy theories about the Titanic, about the 3 very prominent men who also just happened to be very much against the creation of the Federal Reserve going down with the boat and dying, and about how it wasn't even the Titanic, it was the Olympic. It was the perfect thing to keep everybody's attention focused on this story. And then on Thursday, all of a sudden, oh look, we found wreckage and it just imploded after all, probably right when it first went down. And then the Navy comes out and says, oh yeah, it turns out that back on Sunday, we did pick up a noise. I guess maybe it could have been the sub imploding, because it was right around the time they lost contact. That would have been good to know before spending millions of dollars in the whole fucking week looking for the thing, don't you think? I also thought it was pretty strange that, considering they were charging people $250,000 a ticket, that they couldn't opt for a GPS tracker. I mean, we put GPS trackers on sharks, and then we can track them all over the fucking place. But that was too much to bother with for a mini-sub full of billionaires, right? Maybe I shouldn't be that surprised, though. I mean, looking at how rickety this motherfucker was.
I got these from Camper World. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on!
Yeah, a $30 wireless video game controller. Oh, and did I mention which dynasty was tied into this company?
Aha!
Interesting, no? See, there's so many interesting facets and angles to this insane and stupid story that it made for the perfect shiny new object to hold the public attention all week. But what was it a distraction from? Well, there's always these little stories that fall through the cracks and never seem to get picked up by the media. Did you hear about the one about how some EMTs up in Boston got caught up to a house where they found a whole bunch of drugs everywhere and sex toys and a dead dude, and then they found some kids being stashed away in a closet? I know what you're thinking. Why the hell would that not be a major story that gets played all over the network news?
When they got here, they discovered someone had died and also found that several people were hiding children in a back room. Tonight, 4 children less than 10 years old are in DCF custody after authorities and public officials say they were found in an apartment with 6 cross-dressing men, sex toys, drugs, and alcohol. Firefighters discovered them after one of those adults died at the apartment.
Wait, what?
They were found in an apartment with 6 cross-dressing men, sex toys, drugs, and alcohol.
Yeah, something tells me that if this had happened at the house or apartment filled with a bunch of Oath Keepers or 3%ers, suddenly the news would be very interested in telling us about it. But sadly, that's more of just a run-of-the-mill kind of story that just gets overlooked by the network news. We also had the Pentagon come out and say that they made a little accounting boo-boo with regards to all the shit we've been sending to Ukraine. And now it turns out we got an extra $6.2 billion. See, it was because they calculated how much we had paid for the weapons we sent over there instead of how much it's gonna cost to replace them, because the prices of everything have fucking gone up so much. So now that apparently means that we've got an extra $6.2 billion that we can use for Ukraine aid, because who cares how much it's gonna cost to replace the stuff? We gotta just find every way to ship as much as we can possible over there. And we also had Durham finally come and testify to the House Judiciary Committee a month after his report got released.
5 weeks ago, May 15th, you got a letter, Mr. Durham, addressed to you from the General Counsel at the FBI, Mr. Jason Jones, writes you this 6-page letter, and he says, not to worry, everything is fine. It's all been worked out at the FBI. He even says on page 2, he says, had the reforms implemented by current FBI leadership, summarized below, been in place in 2016, failures detailed in your report never would have happened, and he underlines it. He said this would never happen because of the reforms we implemented in 2019 and 2020. And then he says on page 4, one of the specific reforms, he says, FBI executive management has instructed investigations should be run out of the field and not from the headquarters. That statement is not true. 5 weeks ago, the FBI wrote you and said everything has changed when in fact it hasn't, and a statement in there is absolutely false, and we know it's false because 2 weeks ago today, we interviewed Stephen D'Antuono, former head of the Washington field office, Mr. Durham, and here's what he said in his transcript. Head of the Washington field office, when the Trump classified document investigation began, he said, that case was handled differently than I would have expected it to be, than any other cases handled. We learned a lot of stuff from Crossfire Hurricane, that headquarters should not work the investigation. It's supposed to be the field offices. My concern is that the Department of Justice was not following these principles. Nothing is, and that's the thing that scares me the most. Nothing has changed. Mr. Durham, I'm just finished with this. 60% of Americans now believe there's a double standard at the Justice Department. You know why they believe that? Because there is. That has got to change. And I don't think more training, more rules is going to do it. I think we have to fundamentally change the FISA process, and we have to use the appropriations process to violate.
Definitely something you don't want the public paying too much attention to, or else they might want to wonder why nobody got punished for any of the oversights and mistakes and boo-boos that the FBI made in this investigation. That report came out well over a month ago and nothing has happened. No one's in trouble, no one was fired, and probably nothing is gonna happen, other than them censuring that bug-eyed little douchebag Adam Schiff. But even that is just basically a reprimand. He just has to stand there and be told,
"You're a bad man. You're a very bad man."
you fucking got up there on TV and lied to the American public about evidence that you were fabricating. But now let's move on. You also had an impeachment of Joe Biden pass the House, and now it's going to go to committee. And unlike when the same exact thing happened to Trump, that was news. That was all over every channel. But somehow this, not even a blurb on CBS Today or Good Morning America or any of these asshat shows. I mean, even that is pretty fucking pointless. They don't have the votes to actually convict in the Senate, but it's a symbolic gesture at least, because they never had the votes to impeach Trump. It was just all political theater. But for some reason it was worth talking about that. But this, oh, who cares, right? One thing they couldn't avoid talking about was they had to at least mention the fact that Hunter Biden was pleading guilty to some crooked toenail type infractions. And even though they had him dead to rights and probably could send him away for decades, they're acting like this is evidence that no one is above the law. Look at how Good Morning America reported this shit.
The fallout from Hunter Biden's plea deal with federal prosecutors on tax violations and a gun charge. The president's son is likely to avoid jail time. Legal experts say that's common in cases like this, but Republicans are blasting the agreement. Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has the details. Good morning, Pierre.
George, good morning. As we wait to see if a judge will approve this deal, a fierce debate has ignited in this town. Did the president's son get harsher prosecution than the average person would, or is he a child of privilege getting preferential treatment?
After 5 years of investigation, the Justice Department now cutting a deal with Hunter Biden, the son of the President of the United States. Biden pleading guilty to 2 misdemeanor counts of tax violations and acknowledging that he illegally possessed a gun while he was addicted to crack cocaine. The deal, if approved by a federal judge, makes clear that previous statements like these were untrue.
I am absolutely certain, 100% certain, that at the end of the investigation, that I will be cleared.
My son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him.
But now Hunter Biden, through his attorneys, is acknowledging that that dark place of addiction led to a series of things done wrong. Hunter's attorney releasing a statement. I know Hunter believes it is important to take responsibility for these mistakes he made during a period of turmoil and addiction in his life. He looks forward to continuing his recovery and moving forward. The dark place, according to prosecutors, led Biden not to pay more than $200,000 in taxes over 2 years in 2017 and 2018, and to illegally purchase a gun when he knew he was an addict. Federal law prevents people who use or are addicted to controlled substances from purchasing firearms. He now admits he did not pay $100,000 in taxes for each of 2 years, money he has since paid back. As part of the plea deal, he will likely avoid jail time. Prosecutors expected to instead recommend probation with conditions, likely calling him to remain drug-free for 2 years and banning him from ever owning a gun again. Republicans have long sought to make Hunter Biden's troubles and financial dealings, including those in Ukraine and China, a political millstone for his father. Word of Hunter Biden's deal set off a political firestorm, with Republicans claiming he got preferential treatment.
If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal.
And presidential candidate Ron DeSantis tweeting, if Hunter was not connected to the elite D.C. class, he would have been put in jail a long time ago. And former President Trump, himself facing a federal trial, accused the Justice Department of whitewashing Biden's troubles and giving him only a traffic ticket. But the Justice Department says this was all done by the book, with Attorney General Merrick Garland keeping in place a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney who had already been investigating Hunter Biden. For his part, the president still standing in support of his son.
The Trump-appointed U.S. attorney who oversaw the investigation has sent a letter to Congress saying DOJ gave him free rein to handle the case and make all decisions. But that's unlikely to make a difference to many congressional Republicans. George?
But as you said, a Trump appointee. Okay, Pierre, thanks very much.
Oh, because it was a Trump appointee, that means it's all above board. I love right at the beginning.
The president's son is likely to avoid jail time. Legal experts say that's common in cases like this, but Republicans are blasting the agreement.
Oh, legal experts say that that's common in cases like this. Tell that to Wesley Snipes and Ja Rule and a shit ton of other people that got sent to fucking prison. All of a sudden they're trying to act like people don't go to prison for tax violations. Oh, that's how they got Al Capone. He went to fucking Alcatraz over taxes. And this whole thing is a whitewash. We're not even gonna talk about the IRS whistleblower that came forward. Yeah, that's just gonna get swept under the rug because it involves the big guy. He even had this dumbass talking on WhatsApp saying, "I'm sitting here next to my daddy. Better give me the fucking money." And every time I hear one of these knuckleheads say no one is above the law, I throw up a little bit in my mouth. There's a lot of people who are above the law. I mean, I know a lot of the people that say that are doing it for political reasons, and they know the truth. They know that's bullshit. But I wonder if some of these people are actually stupid enough to believe that.
Yes, but no. But yes.
And of course, the war machine keeps grinding on. And now, contrary to all logic and common sense, Zelensky and the Ukrainians are claiming that the Russians are gonna blow up the nuclear plant that they've been holding for over a year now. You know, the Zaporizhzhia one, the largest nuclear plant in all of Europe, the one who was getting water to cool the spent fuel rods from the dam that they just blew up. Well, now the Ukrainians are saying those evil Russians are gonna blow up the nuclear plant and irradiate the territory that they conquered. It's like, if you're gonna accuse your enemy of something, at least make it make a little fucking sense. And the damn thing was just like the Nord Stream. Why the fuck would they blow the dam that they need for that nuclear plant? And then when reports start coming out that the water level in the pools of spent fuel rods is going down and they're not gonna be able to replenish it, all of a sudden you start saying, we think they're about to blow up the nuclear facility. Because guess what? If they stop getting water to cool those spent fuel rods, guess what's gonna happen? So we'll just preemptively say that the Russians are about to blow up their own fucking controlled territory's nuclear plant for no reason. And simultaneously, you had Washington, D.C. hot dog eating champion Lindsey Graham and Democrat Senator Richard Blumenthal introduce a resolution threatening war if Russia uses any kind of nuclear weapon. And they even specifically iterated that if they would happen to blow up a nuclear facility, that would count. Basically, anything that causes radiation to be dispersed on NATO allies will be used to invoke Article 5. I've been telling you this, World War III is gonna happen. They're gonna make it fucking happen. It may be taking a little bit of time to get going, but when you compare it to how long it took World War I and World War II to go full bore, we're right on schedule. And as for this attempted mutiny in Russia business that happened over the weekend, it was a lovely sensationalist story, but I'm afraid I'm just not buying into it. I know everybody'd like to think that Putin's got his shitting pants on and he almost completely lost control of everything, but look at what ended up actually happening. You had the head of Wagner, Prigozhin, march thousands of his people hundreds of miles right up to the outskirts of Moscow, and now him and his boys are sitting in Belarus seemingly in exile, but they just so happen to be 60 miles away from the capital city, Kiev. There's a reason why Sun Tzu said what he said about appearing weak where you are strong, and also when he said that all war is based on deception. And even if the story is true as reported, that this was a legit fracturing of the Russian forces, it's going to force Putin to make a move so that he can maintain the appearance of strength. So either way, I think this means you're about to see the Russians make a big move. And if you start hearing on the news about how the Wagner boys are marching into Kiev, you might want to think about battening down the hatches and taking one last trip to the grocery store, because shit's about to get weird. Slancha.
In this world is my thoughts and my word, and I don't break
say goodnight to the bad guy. So say goodnight to the bad guy. Come on. Come on. Come on. So say goodnight to the bad guy. 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 I told you, don't fuck with me. 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 You stupid fuck. Look at you now. Look at you now.